This video is going to go over general ways to increase your quote luck, whether it's with your career, money, relationships, and so on. Something I've noticed is that there are a lot of statistics out there that tend to scare us that we really need to analyze on a deeper level. For the people on this channel, you might see the percent of people who drop out of engineering or college, or who can't find a job with some major. I've seen comments of people being discouraged from various things because of this. But whether it's finding a career, succeeding in starting a business, or having a successful marriage, you should always look deeper into the stories and statistics that you hear and read about. There obviously is truth to everything, but it might not be as simple as you think. Before I focus more on the theme of this channel, take the general concept of marriage and divorce. In the United States, around 50% of couples get divorced, which we'll just use for simplicity. Now, does this mean that you have a 50% chance of divorce? Not at all, actually. It means that you need to do what the 50% of successful couples do that stay together. I mean, not necessarily the exact same thing, but you should mimic certain traits. If you were to break it down further, you'd see that around 60% of people who marry before the age of 25 get divorced. People who date for 3 years before getting married are 39% less likely to get divorced than those who date for less than 1 year. And money is one of the biggest reasons for divorce. So if you got married after 25, dated for a few years before actually getting married, and waited till you were financially stable, do you think your odds are at 50%? Probably not. But is this a guarantee? Of course not. You could do none of these and have a successful marriage. But how much more likely do you think you are to have a successful marriage by doing these? And this is something else to note. These are very much in your control and they don't carry any huge risk. The money part might be a little tougher, but simply waiting till you're older and having dated for a certain amount of time is completely up to you. This wasn't about having better communication or finding ways to spend more time with each other, which are of course important, but simply looking at the successful marriages out there and mimicking various aspects that are within your control. Now, I know there are couples out there that might want to have kids early, or when one person's in the military, people tend to get married earlier, but in general, for most people out there, you can see how the small things that are within your control can have a drastic effect on your future. Nothing is 100%, of course. People get married out of high school and stay together. But why not optimize your future using the habits of other successful people before you? Now, what about for the audience of this channel? A lot of people worry that some certain major will be too difficult for them or that they won't be able to make it to graduation. Well, for one, do you actually want to pursue the degree? I rarely hear people say that they dropped out because they loved the major but it was just too hard. But also, what if you looked at the amount of classes people skipped, or how much time people spent studying versus partying, or how often students went to office hours and or got tutoring when they needed help? Again, nothing is a guarantee. I knew people who partied a lot and still did well. But do you really think there's no correlation between the dropout rate and these various factors that are again all within your control? So then what if we dig a little deeper? In the book Deep Work, the author states that he interviewed extremely high-scoring college undergraduates and found that they didn't necessarily study more hours than many of the people below them, but they participated in extremely focused studying or deep work. This meant without cell phones or social media interruption. You may not realize it, but they discovered that even small distractions, like checking your phone and sending a text for 30 seconds, impacts your focus significantly. And in the book, he gives an equation that the quality of your work equals the time spent times intensity of focus. So while an all-night study session may feel productive, it can be better just to focus intensely with no distractions for a shorter period of time, because that's what top students typically do. Of course, there are top students who just study way more than anyone else, but if you have trouble doing that, then why not replicate what top students do while optimizing your time? Get off social media and your phone for 50 minutes and focus on work, then take a break for 10 minutes. This is actually what the author recommends, and you can do this multiple times throughout your day. And then you can actually absorb and retain information in 2 hours that someone who is distracted might retain in, let's say, maybe 4 hours. I also see a lot of people comment that they aren't great at math and are worried about the STEM field. Well, when it comes to math, they've done a lot of studies. Many people believe that being good at math is an innate thing. You either have it or you don't. But what they found is that your ability to simply try, or how long you're willing to look at a problem before giving up and saying that you can't do it, is a true indicator of who is good at math. They asked students this question of how long do you take before giving up on a problem, and the answers ranged from 30 seconds to 5 minutes. But there were people, some who weren't even naturally good at math, who would keep looking at the problem even if it took 30 minutes for a simple linear function type problem because they wanted to understand it. This may seem like it's true for all subjects because obviously the longer you analyze a problem, the more you get it. But the correlation was so clearly defined for math compared to anything else, which might have to do with the fact that math is a universal truth. 2 plus 2 is 4 no matter what, and the same goes for all math. So you're really just trying to make sense of that truth, and it's just a matter of time, whereas writing a good persuasive essay has no right answers and is up for interpretation. If you want to hear a cool story, decades ago, a math student at a university came to class late. He copied the 2 homework problems from the board very quickly, and then he went home to attempt those problems. What he found was those were very difficult, and it took him several days to get through them, but he eventually did. Turns out those 2 problems were not homework problems. They were 2 unsolved problems in mathematics at the time. He solved what no one else had done because he took the time to try to finish what he thought was homework. So again, looking at a problem for a longer period of time before giving up is something that's in your control. And on this topic of putting in more effort, in the book Mindset, the author talks about the fixed mindset, which is where people assume talent is everything. If you're not born good at it, you can't learn it. And those with a growth mindset, where they believe that through effort and work, you can cultivate your skill set. You can adopt either of these mindsets, you aren't fixed with one forever, but there were many tests they did that noticeably showed differences in people. And this is also where talent can sometimes be a bad thing. Do you know of someone who is naturally athletic or naturally good at a subject? They don't study or practice much and still do well? Well, these people can easily adopt a fixed mindset. Not all will, but it's very possible. They think talent is the only reason they're good, and since they're going to just stay at that level, they don't need to practice or study, and this can obviously be really harmful. To show this, they gave young students a simple puzzle to solve, and when they did it, they asked them to solve another and to pick from another easy puzzle or one that was more challenging. The fixed mindset people picked the easy puzzle. They wanted to just prove themselves. They were more concerned with not losing their identity of being smart and were not interested in growth. The growth mindset students asked for the harder puzzle because they wanted to be challenged. Researchers followed various students of the fixed and growth mindset through junior high and found that those students with the growth mindset showed improved grades as the classes got harder, while the other students' grades often went down. The same author looked at students in college taking their first chemistry course. They gave tests to determine who had a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, then tracked those students' test scores. They found that those with a growth mindset sometimes did poorly on a test, but they nearly always came back, while the fixed mindset students did not. Those students often responded with something like, "Well, I guess chemistry just isn't my subject." They then asked the students their study habits, and what they found was that the fixed mindset students were studying for the sake of passing and doing well in the exam. They memorized and they simply read and read, but they didn't want to learn. The growth mindset people aimed to learn. They said, "I went over mistakes until I was confident how to do the problems," and they said, "I kept myself motivated and positive about the subject." So none of us can control where we start in life. Some start smarter or more athletic than others, but we can control our effort. And if you're sitting there saying, "I'm not good at something," that's a fixed mindset. Now I think most of us have said something like that, but if you've said that you can't get better at it, that's really the fixed mindset. Because the studies have shown that with effort that you can control, you can learn and adopt pretty much any skills that anyone else can. And note, there is a difference between having a fixed mindset and simply not enjoying a subject. While we can always get better, I don't believe that you should be pursuing something that you don't have an interest in. Another thing I see on this channel is about careers. Like, will I be able to find a job with this certain degree or in some field? And of course, you should be aware if some field has very few jobs. We all need to be realistic, of course, and there might be some majors that yield low employment rates. But when talking especially about a lot of the STEM field majors, and you've heard of some people who can't find jobs, do you think that there's maybe more to it? I don't really have the stats on this one, but I'm curious with those students who didn't find jobs, how many career fairs those students went to? How many companies did they apply to? Did they spend weeks and months just filling out applications and uploading their resumes? Did they actively network with others? Had they perfected their resume using all the resources that they have? Maybe a person did literally everything they can and still can't find a job. But do you really think that there's no correlation between these various factors and someone getting that first job out of school? Overall success is of course not just a matter of luck. In fact, it's mostly not luck, but there are so many factors that can increase your statistical odds at success in whatever it may be. And the easiest place to start is with what is easily within your control. So silence your phone for 50 minutes to study with intense focus. Look at that math problem just 5 minutes more and see if it clicks, because you know that's a really good feeling when it does. Seek out ways to challenge yourself, like taking an honors or AP class, and develop that growth mindset. Go to office hours when you really need help. Go to career fairs. Apply to more jobs than the next person. And if you have no reason not to, maybe wait some extra time before getting married. For many of these, they are completely within your control and they aren't that hard to do. I did not say solve an unsolvable math problem. Just look at your homework problem for a few more minutes. At least start there. In the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey talks about your circle of influence, or the things that you have control over, and your circle of concern, or the things that you cannot control but that affect you or that you care about. There's typically a lot in our circle of concern that we have little to no control over, but it's important to not waste mental energy on those things. Can you change those? If not, then spend as little energy worrying about them as possible. Worry about what's in your control, whether it's working harder, studying more, or whatever it may be. Maybe it's even quit your job, but if it's in your control, that's where your energy should go to. And hopefully next time you hear a statistic like only 20% of businesses succeed or 50% of people pass some test, hopefully you'll think that maybe there's more to it, and by modeling those that are successful, you can improve your odds and create your own quote luck. If you like this video, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.